you a hello. Goodbye.
Sorry about the delay, guys. It looks as though we're going to have a Persia versus Norse game between Pharos and Crimson Cantab for the opening. I suppose I've sort of said that backwards with how I've got it set up in the stream, right? Either way, it doesn't really matter. We are spawning in, and what is the map? We've got Savannah. So I might even tell the players once they actually see the lakes. I guess they'll probably figure it out. I hope they'll figure it out. Anyway, Pharos spawning as the purple Persian player. And sorry, I just wanted to double check. I forgot that I'd already switched over. Just making sure. Anyway, Pharos is our purple Persian player today. And our green Norse player today is Crimson Cantab. So big shout outs to both these guys for backing up a couple of weeks worth of show matches now. Thanks for signing up. So it's a bit of a strange map, this one. Not a lot of wood. The rush distance is reasonable. I mean, it's sort of like an inland, but a much lighter. Inland is more or less a macro version of this map, so to speak, because each of these lakes is a little bit bigger and has 3 schools of fish, and there's a lot more wood on the map. And it feels like the map is slightly small to compensate for the fact that there's no elevation, whereas inland always spawns with elevation, for instance. Watering Hole's got a much bigger rush distance compared to both of them. So anyway, Pharos going for a barracks early. Crimson Cantab also going for a barracks early, because you can't really commit to water at all on this map. It's not really a point to it, and like I said, the rush distance isn't massive, maybe a tad smaller than inland. Yeah, to be honest, it's probably not much more than some of the more distant Ghost Lake variants. Yeah, both players going barracks first. Another player backing it up with the hunting dogs, by the look of it either. So, guys, pro tip, if you're not getting spear rushed, just get this bloody tech. It's so good. And Pharos has pinched a couple of goats up here at the top side. Sort of just sitting his scout there, now he's moving on. But these goats are probably going to get caught by Crimson's scout there. And he's pushed his spears up, whereas the Sparrow just sitting, guarding the hunt for Pharos. Pharos using his scout to try and whittle down some of the health, but especially against the Norse spears with a melee scout, it's a very slow process. Because as PF2K has mentioned previously, these melee scouts, because they deal melee damage, against the spearmen, they're not very effective because the spears have actually got armor against melee infantry and cavalry. Whereas the Spara, they don't. Oh, they do, sorry, but they've also got pierce armor, which the spearmen all don't. Bit of an engage going on now. And there is a unit count favour towards Crimson. And he is going to take out the Spara and force a bit of a pullback. And Hunting Dog, 8/10, sorry, is being queued. Hunting Dog's already been taken by Pharos, so he did end up getting it. He is going to be able to repel Crimson. He's often to go for the herd because he does have Hunting Dog, so it's going to be just that much faster. So especially because he hasn't taken Picker's Gloves, because he has taken Hunting Dogs, he's skipping over on the berries and going back on the hunt this time. Crimson is aging up now. Pharos doesn't have anything in the queue, but now he does. Crimson moving his spears around again. It's a nice map, this one. I think if there was slightly more wood, most players would really enjoy it. Although those chokes would be annoying to play against, like, I don't know, Greeks or something of that nature. Against. This time Pharos has enough to defend here. He's got the aid tent, so that's really topping up any unit that it was taking damage there. So without really good micro, Crimson's not really going to have a chance to take anything down here. There's a spearman actually in the mix as well. And the second town center being taken extremely defensively from Pharos, whereas Crimson's is really greedy, so this could go either way. Because Crimson is going to have much better map control because of this, but the moment he gets pushed back, he's at a big disadvantage, because even though he's got a forward TC there, it's a lot easier to actually snipe it, whereas if they're stacked together, it's very hard to try and take out one of them until about age 3. Or until you've pretty much overrun your opponent completely. But this is a tough spot for the Persian, because the Norse has a couple of throwing axemen out in the field. There's only a single bowman out as well. Crimson trying to harass barracks. Pharos made a bit of a reaction, but this second town center is going to finish up, so he's going to have to back out before the spear fire. I mean, before the town center fire. And the Sparrowbar come in. Handsaw being finished up there for Pharos and Crimson. What he finished is really essential. H2 tech. Pharos getting picker's gloves. Because he's in this defensive position, he wants to make sure he's as little behind as possible with the gathering. Although Crimson's already really got a bit of a score lead over him at the moment. A bit of a unit lead too. But he's going to lose that single throwing axeman, probably this spearman as well. Oh no, he does pull him back. He's going for these forward production facilities, so he's getting his stables as well as the barracks. So the raid is going to come in really handy, taking out the bowman. Well, the barracks, the throwing axemen obviously going to be invaluable against the Persian barracks units who can't counter infantry. So in this position the Persian is forced to try and get his stables up themselves and put a bit of pressure on the Norse back at home, or try and go straight for age 3 and get the immortals out to actually counter the throwing axemen, because then they'll basically counter infantry versus counter infantry with a damage, range and health advantage over the opponent. So keep that one in mind, guys. Raiders out in the field. Crimson, he's going for double stables production here. He wants to really overwhelm Pharos. And Pharos, single bowman here to defend these workers. That's not ideal at all. At the same time, he's destined to get the food out of this hunt. He's parked his whole army up here. Crimson's going to have to try and push into a double town center stack. So that second town center being such a defensive position in this state for him is a really good thing for him. Crimson in the meanwhile, oh, I think he's distance gathering there, so that's not so good for him. He'll throw down a storehouse in a sec though, I'm sure. Or transition them onto another resource. No, he's not. Okay. Anyway, Pharos getting the quick age 3 rather than mucking around trying to get Asabara, because truth be told, with Asabara and spears you can take a fight against the raiders, and the only problems are throwing axemen, which if you can guard your bowman you can, you know, trade a fight with there. But Pharos getting pushed back there, a couple of villagers going down, so it's not great for him at all. He's got the army parked back at home there. 27 to 38 is the villager count at the moment. Pharos is capped in terms of population, so this is going to be a bit tough for him. a big number of raiders, but there's a good number of spears and Asabara. The raiders are only a 1 population cavalry unit. As much as they are easy to mass, they're terrible at taking head-on fights, and they have to keep moving in a position like this. As you can see, getting thinned down quite quickly. 4 or 5 of them going down there in that exchange, although they did get a villager or 2. Farrell's still stuck at 27 villagers. I think he's only producing out of 1 town centre at the moment though, so that's really going to hurt him. He's got the food to produce out of both, but he must only have the 1 town centre bound in his control groups, his starting one. And this is going to be tough for the Persian because he's taking a fight with half of his bowmen in the back line doing nothing. Whereas the moment they get in range, the Persian army is really scary for the Norse. The throwing axemen obviously outranged by the bowmen. The raiders can't really stand up against an age 2 spearman. Although with the single Asabara there, he's sort of not really going to be too useful in the fight. You kind of need to get enough to actually be able to raid yourself with them and to be able to more or less act as a quicker spearman to deal with the raiders. In saying that, you can definitely not afford to throw up other stables in this position as the Persian, because they're more or less a dead weight until you can actually get to age 3 and get mounted archers out to really hurt the Norse stables. So other stables being added as well. I think there's only the single barracks back at home for Crimson. Yeah, there is. So 2 rangers of stables and another barracks being thrown up. So big bowman count to deal with the throwing axemen and reasonable spearman count to try and deal with these raiders from Pharos. He's doing what he can to stay in the game. He's down by score and population by quite a significant amount now. He's actually not that far behind in his worker count though. It's 48 to 39. I think Crimson might have had a bit of a slip there getting these longhouses up, and Pharos has been pumping out the villages well behind all this, so he's not that far behind economically. And he is getting the age 3, so if he does manage to get the immortal count up before Crimson really can seal the deal, it'll be painful. But Crimson, big number of raiders here, and yeah, there's not really enough Asabara to deal with 25 raiders, and the spearmen are always going to be slower. So again, more workers of Pharos being executed. He's down to 37 villagers again. 54 for Crimson Cantab at the moment. This outpost needs to go. But because Pharos kept everything up there to do that, Crimson trying to find the opportunity to chip away at this barracks. If he can bring it down, he can put Pharos on the back foot, because then he'll never really be able to get the spearman count he needs to deal with this many raiders. But age 3 is finished for Pharos, and he can afford to pump out some mounted archers as well. And they and Asabara can really put the hurt on raiders, especially if he gets Asabara champion. That's a good little choke here for Pharos to fight on, because not a lot of Crimson's raiders are able to really get onto the bowmen, and Pharos is bringing them further in amongst the army, but probably could pull them back in here amongst the 2 town centres. And I think Crimson has really overwhelmed him at the moment. Pharos isn't gathering any food, and GG is called. I think Pharos just slipped up in his eco there. He took a little bit too much damage early on to really stay in the game, and the age 3 transition, as much as it meant he could get to Immortals, he could just get parade pushed like that, whereas if he had thrown up another barracks, delayed with the age 3 in the position that he was, and just pumped out spearmen, he might have been able to hold that So all he really had to do was keep the raiders off his bowman with enough spearmen and target the bowman onto these throwing axemen, because this was a nice little fight for him to take. But in saying that, I think Crimson realised he was just so far ahead in population, and with the age 3 commitment, he was able to just push to win there. Well played, guys. So that's game number 1 down. Alright guys, looks like we got Babylonian versus Persian. So Crimson swapped to Babs. Barros sticking with his Persians, sticking with what he knows, hoping to right wrongs. Alright, so we've been graced with Watering Hole. And Crimson Cantab spawning on the bottom side of the map is the green Babylonian player. spawning on the top side. We got Pharos as the purple Persian. So this map's always pretty generous with the starting hunts. And you're pretty much backed into a little corner here. The nice big wood line, nice big chunk of wood somewhere over here and here. Well, there's this great big bloody lake in the middle of the map. A nice big bloody island in the middle. And there's usually a gold and a stone mine on it, I'm pretty sure. But anyway, we've got Crimson already attempting to take the water. Village count 5. Wow, that's pretty early too. That is really early. Usually I tend to do it at 6 myself. Pharos in the meanwhile, he's up to 7 workers. He hasn't started his dock yet. Usually I send my 7th from the TC to the dock. I'm just going to be able to afford. I think he is, to be honest. Yeah, he should be able to afford, as long as he transitions back off the wood onto... Oh no, he shouldn't even need to, because he's... Abs OP. He's just going to distance gather wood for a little bit. While he forces out that... Oh yeah. Really smart here. Nice from Crimson. Rather than really copying the blow on either resource, in order to minimize downtime before he gets that ox cart out for the second ox cart for the wood here. He's just sending the starting one in the middle, and that way he can, yeah, force out the first fishing ship, and the second, and the ox cart, with only a slight increase in distance gathering. So a bit different, bit of a weird one, but it works well. So Pharos in the meanwhile, I don't think he's even started on the lake yet. So that could prove to be his downfall. He's running a villager across the map for some reason. He's going to take a forward barracks. Oh, this is really interesting. Crimson running a scout around. And the sheep, Is he going to see it? Is he going to see it? I don't think he will. I don't think he's going to see it. So Pharos committing to H2. And a forward barracks, but no dock behind it. Getting handsaw. Probably making it look like he's going to go for like a fast warship or a fast TC. Crimson hasn't seen the fast warship, but he's going to see the barracks now. And it's too far inland for the warships of his own to be able to deal with. He's not really... Well, he's already gathering gold, so I think he probably did go on the gold just in case. He's not really got the wood to get any production facilities out yet. Stage 2 hasn't finished up just yet, but Pharos going for a second barracks. Mass Spearman? Okay. I think he wants to defend against Lancers, but at the same time, Crimson's going to opt for a Byreme first, so... Maybe Mass Spara would be the way to go, because they are a little bit cheaper. It is 20 gold cheaper, same amount of food cost, but 20 gold cheaper to just mass up the Spara, and I do think they... Oh no, they're trading the same time. But yeah, just the fact they are a little bit cheaper means you can mass them up that little bit quicker, force up the second and third production facility with less of an investment overall. And yeah, do a lot better under the Byreme fire, because these Spearmen... They haven't actually got any ranged armor, whereas the Sparabara do, so they're really the only Age 1 or Age 2 infantry, along with shield bearers, that can sort of sit under under a warship and really not be too much worse for wear. Pharos has actually gone for both handsaw and hunting dogs behind this. He does have a couple of idlers, so that's going to hurt him a little bit. Throwing up some warhouses now though. And Crimson's going to try and scout out the water with this warship of his. But while it's over the other side of the map, Pharos can actually snipe these fishing ships for free. There's nothing back at home yet for Crimson, who's queuing up a bunch of upgrades. Hunting Dogs Handsaw for him coming out as well. And Net Lures. So Net Lures, Hunting Dogs Handsaw, really powerful, greedy eco opening. If you can fit all three of them in, Oh, and Pharos unaware that the warship's parked up the other side, so he's not actually sniping the ships. If he snipes them now, Crimson has to reshuffle his whole economy and get more food gatherers out over here. And it really slows down his wood, slows down his stables or his barracks. But all these spears are going to find the town centre, so... Pharos. Nice play here. He is going to snipe the TC from half health, seemingly. Good catch. He's going to kill that worker too. Catch the TC, so Crimson. The hard work getting on the lake quickly pretty much hasn't quite paid off. He's going to go for a range first to try and clean these guys up. Not sure if that's going to finish in time because Pharos... Is he going to be able to see it? He's splitting his units up. He is going to see it going up. He's going to make a beeline for it with a handful of the spears. There's only a handful of workers on it too. You pick off an ox cart. Not going for the range itself, he's just picking off the workers, but he's getting a couple of ox carts here. Otherwise, taking the TC. He's chasing all the workers. A lot of the garrison now. But these spears have sort of been thrown away a little bit. He needs to get them out of here. Or focus down the range. Or chase these villagers who are all... I think they're all going to head up here to try and sit under the warship. And try and bait Pharos into a fight. Under warship fire. And maybe even try and go for this. He's bringing everything up. Pharos is... trying to just kill the bows as they pop out one by one, but eventually this is going to mean all these spears are going to go down for free. There's a town centre going down the middle of the map. Pharos can't actually see it. Pharos can't see the TC. Oh, he did see it. He did see it. Okay. So he is going to go for the spear straight onto it now. Still got these guys at home. Crimson's home, but he's not hitting the range with all of them, which is... There we go. Ooh, that forward TC. It's been an interesting game. And these villagers just going to distance gather, I think. But he needs to mass up Spara. Pharos. In this position. Oh, he's got a spearman trapped up the back there. These aren't building anything. There's a villager idle there as well. These guys could probably sneak around here as well, or even come back in to Crimson's base. So he's going to want to restart villager production back at home. There's no way Crimson can actually reach these back. Oh, he can. Oh, can't. I don't think he can. So only the TC can really focus down these barracks, but that's going to be a little while before that is all finished and done and dusted. There's stables. Double stables coming up for Pharos. Triple stables. So he's really looking at pushing... At all the Asabara, he's going, bugger it, I'm not going to commit to eco. He's just going to take a dock here to, take a tower here to try and focus down the dock. Really interesting play so far, guys. I'm liking this game immensely. Crimson scouting out the map desperately. He wants to know what Pharos is up to. Is he going to throw down a second town centre somewhere else? Is he going to throw down more proxy building somewhere else, or is he just going to try and go for something standard from now on? And Pharos is just going for mass Asabara, which is interesting. But I suppose because Crimson only has the range and warships, Asabara are probably the logical choice to make here. And that tower does get denied. So Pharos' proxy attempt unsuccessful. He is going to lose that villager as well. Not before it takes a couple of swings. Yeah. Still, did about 30 damage. These Asabara are going to be able to clean up these bowmen pretty quickly. Working counts of 32 to 36. So Crimson has really undone all the damage with the worker counts. Losing so much in the early game. But Pharos just has a lot more military at the moment. Crimson has 4 pop locked up in warships. So remember guys, they're pretty immobile. when your opponent hasn't got any ships. They're basically just like a slightly mobile tower or fortress. All these gold gatherers forced to flee. Volkscart going down. So both of these players, their economies have been nuked by the way they've had to play this game. Pharos is really committed to these Asabara, so he needs to get as much value out of them as possible to get himself back ahead for committing to the stables. But he is going to get, or maybe not, he's not going to get the Barium now that it's being repaired. He's bringing some more Asabara in, but he needs to focus the ships now, which he is going to do. The Crimson, really nice job with the... Oh, I thought he was going to lose that one there. This time Pharos focusing all the ships, all the fishing ships first. But he really could take that out. That Barium's on like 30 health. He's coming down here to try and deal some eco damage to Crimson. He's got 4 villagers queued up, stacked up in the TC for some reason. Pharos running back and forth, a bit indecisive here. He could probably commit, take out the Bariums with some good micro. He's going to try and focus down the stables. A little bit ineffective there. He's juking a lot of shots here, but he's got the count to really be able to surround these guys and then just pull out the low Asabara and try and split them as they attack. And he'd probably actually win that fight. He's got the health there on a lot of these. So just lead with the full ones. You should be able to more or less take advantage of your opponent's inability to target every single unit. But here we go, another big raid from Pharos. So Crimson not a lot back at home once again. He's really dominant on the water, but right now this town centre is being focused and there's 9 villages queued up in it, so it's going to really slow down his gathering. He's at 46 villages to Pharos' 38. I'm able to keep gathering here. A couple of Lancers joining the mix, but there's a few more Asabara on the way. So I think Pharos is just going to have the army count advantage here. There's not a third stables yet here for Crimson, though he is adding more barracks, which is a good idea. But Pharos needs to focus stuff here. There's a lot of low stuff, but he needs to get kills. He can focus down the town centre or the houses. But I think he might be able to get everything regardless. He seems to be pumping in the units to be able to do so. He's sniped the house there. The town centre is going down, so Pharos has destroyed Crimson Cantab's main base. He's stuck in this island where Pharos originally proxied, so this is turning into be a real interesting game. That range going down now. It hasn't seen a lot of use because Pharos transitioned on these Asabara, so you're completely useless against that. Meanwhile, the Babylonian stables, it's so good. Bro, it's so good. It's so good, bro. Like, it actually is so good for real. Pharos is in a dominant position at the moment because Crimson has lost so much. Down to 43 workers. He's only 4 ahead despite opening with that much faster second town centre and with that dock. And he's really huddled in this little island, and he perhaps doesn't have enough now that Pharos is all the way up to 25 Asabara. Really impressive count. And he's just running in left, right and centre. I don't think there is the spearman count here to be able to deal with this. There's even shield bearers in the mix who are going to be useless compared to spearmen in this position, but I don't know if Crimson necessarily had the gold to get them out continuously there. While these guys are fighting these buildings, they're not fighting units, so Pharos isn't taking the best fight he possibly could here, but he might have enough. The Asabara do join the fight now, so they are going to be able to focus down these Bariums with efficiency, and another one is going to go down. The spears really need to be focused here. If the Persian player focuses the spears, the Babylonian player is dead. He has this fight on lock at the moment. Crimson is all the way down to 36 population. Pharos is up to 90, so he's added spearmen of his own, which is really interesting, but really useful as well. They've only got to travel such a short distance. He can even add in some Spyro if he wanted to, just to tank the Bireem. So more and more Asabara coming in. Pharos having to pick up his food gathering once again. He hasn't even got any farms yet, but he's continuing to overwhelm Crimson, and I think this series is gonna head to a third game by now. It's Crimson is down to 27 workers. GG is called. Really, really interesting game there from Pharos, proxying the 2 barracks and pushing into his opponent's base, following it up with the triple stables in response to the, the range and the little bit of eco advantage there on the water. And Crimson, making use of the town centre there to really deny this for the most part, but then the fact that he had to deal with 3 stables with his later 2 and with his late barracks, he was not able to turn things around. It was really well done game from both players. That was an interesting one. That'll go down in history as the most interesting, most proxy-ish game in outside of top level, I think. That was something else. Holy. Sorry to keep you all waiting, guys. It's as much my bad as it is the players. In fact, it's more so. They're both here ready and waiting. It'll be 1 second, we'll get the ball rolling. Blum. Alright guys, let's get this show on the road. So no spoilers. No spoilers, Sean, no spoilers. It's... Now I'll show you. The great unveiling. And it's Oasis. So we've got spawning on the top side of the map. Crimson Kentab as the green Kel player going into game number 3 now. And spawning as the Persian purple player today, Pharos. So this is 3 Persia games from him. A little bit of wood stacked up on these guys, but is he going to deposit first? No, it's not really anything to worry about. Never mind. So he's got the barracks going down at the same time as his opponent. Both players eager to fight over this water. It's pretty much going to come down over to who takes the better Age 1 fight, who secures this water. And I know you guys are probably sick of getting Oasis now because it seems like we only get 4 or 5 maps out of competitive random in the show matches at the moment. But hopefully, with a greater sample size over the next couple weeks, we'll see some more bangers. We'll see... I suppose Twizzletop Mountain's not in it because it's not considered competitive, which is a shame. But we can probably see more... Oh, we've seen Bandit Canyon a few times. Tundra or Ghost Lake or Equal Footing, Sheltered Pass, Arabia. We've seen Great Lake once or twice in recent times. But yeah, there's a few more maps on the selection you guys probably haven't seen for a little while. You're probably eager to see. So hopefully we'll see them soon. Spearman coming out for Crimson already. Pharos finishing up his first Spire now too. Looks as though Crimson eager to put the pressure on, but these are going to get seen by the scout. Pharos' Spire a little bit slow to head over there, so that single villager though only being microed off, which is great because Pharos is continuing to farm with the rest of the villagers as long as this one doesn't go down. Although it will! Oh, so Crimson deals first blood. Is eager to try and take down a second now. But Pharos, he can only micro away 1 unit at a time, which is also good because he's maximizing the amount of gathering he's doing otherwise. Getting A10 on the way, so it's reducing damage by a single spear effectively to 1 as the unit regenerates. And now Pharos is going to be able to repel Crimson, but he's already forced a bit of a commitment there to the A10 and to a couple of extra Spara, saying that the Kelp player is booming out the spears. Hunting dogs for Crimson and not for Pharos, so he is going to edge out a small eco advantage because of that, as long as this next house goes up and... Oh, he's got units in queue, so he's perfectly fine there. Not actually housed yet, but Pharos needs to cancel one of these Spara, queue up a villager, or queue up Loom maybe, and throw up a house, because right now He's housed, he's got a big stack of spar, and he can probably push into this army and kite it back in the aid tent, take a favourable fight, because the spar are a lot tankier than the spears. With the aid tent advantage, you can really take a nice fight, even while a spar or two down compared to the spears. These guys all forced off. And so Pharos at a bit of an eco disadvantage now. 15 villagers to 11. He's missed a couple, and he's queuing up an H2 really quickly here. While Crimson's committing to the water, and he seems to have the spear count to be able to take a fight outside of A10. So he's going to use these spears like a big pack of Zerglings. Really try and get good couple of hits before the A10 field kicks in, because that on the spar is going to be really effective. Because they've also got armor, so they're not actually taking 11 damage a hit. They're taking, what, 7.7, so it's undoing the damage of more than one spear at a time if they do take a fight on top of the aid tent. But Crimson aging up now, while Pharos has taken a really quick age 2 with a very small villager count of only 11. Crimson is pretty much free to boom on the water right now. Although he might even just go mix in some... He is going to add the fishing boat now. I was going to say you could either throw in a warship and just keep it there, or even, yeah, mix in some long swordsmen at this point. But just for now, he's going to deny the hunt. So Pharos is going to be at even further disadvantage. The range is going to come up now, but he's committing to 2 production facilities of, yeah, 13 villages and no town center in sight. Does have the stone for it just about, but he's a mile off in terms of wood, so he's pretty much going to need to commit straight to the wood now, which he's doing. 301 stone. Almost perfect there, man. Almost perfect. Honestly, getting it to 300 exactly is more luck than skill. I can get it to 301 all day long. Anytime I get it to 300, it's purely because of luck. But the barracks being focused down now, so this is going to mean that there's no front line for Pharos. Nothing to really cost effectively fight the spears if this goes down. And then say that this big spar account, so Crimson is going to have to take a fight first, and there's villagers here from Pharos preparing it with the aid tent. It's just going to take a while for that villager to go down. So Crimson is repelled for now, but when he peppers in some long swordsmen and, you know, keeps producing spears because it frees up gold gathering, and with champion spear he gets a really good damage to cost ratio against buildings. Although the long swordsmen are what's really going to give him the ability to actually trade against the Sparrer under the aid tent or under the town center fire. And now that there's a range out, Crimson is going to have to commit to his own range and his own slingers to deal with that. But this is a favourable position for him to be in for sure. He's nearly double the population of Pharos. 23 to 16 villages. And Pharos having to take a quick picker's gloves. Hadn't committed to hunting dogs, so he hadn't really had to dumped a lot of resources into that, only to not get a lot of value out of it. But Crimson, with both the pond and with hunting dogs, gonna have no problem gathering food for this Celt Civ to be able to overload his opponent with spears early on, as he pleases. Gonna snipe a bunch of storehouses, really slow down Pharos, who's only got a fairly small amount of wood. Gonna try and go for the house now instead. Unsuccessful, being repelled, and he's gonna have to add in the range in his own second town center eventually. But for now, he's still got a bit of an advantage over Pharos, but Pharos is doing everything he can to defend in this position. Not overextending with his army chasing Crimson, and then running into difficulty because the moment Crimson adds long swordsman, which he's starting to do now. Oh no, he just cancelled them. He really needs to get spear champion if he wants to stick. If he wants to stick with pure spearman, guys, rule of thumb. If you want to stick with pure spearman and dive buildings, you need to get spear champion as soon as you can. Otherwise, you need a pepper between Spearman and a Long Swordsman. You don't really want to go mass Long Swordsman because then it eats up too much gold to be able to afford a good slinger count once the Persian goes for the bowman. But if, yeah, you sort of pepper them in, at least you're going to be able to trade reasonably against the Sparrow because, yeah, Spearman v Sparrow is a tough trade, and Spearman v Sparrow, when there's bowman in the mix, really sucks. Crimson's managing to make this work so far, just purely through the unit count. He's added in the Long Swordsman finally. And there is a range. Yeah, sweet. So Crimson in the driver's seat now. I was going to say if he was just trying to brute force this with just spears and long swordsmen, he could eventually just throw away that much. But Pharos, makes it through to mid game. But I think now the fact that he's committing to the slingers and the fact that Pharos is throwing down another range instead of a stables to respond to it. Because I don't think he actually saw the slinger then. I think Pharos is going to be too far behind to take the next fight. He's just got so little in the bank. 30 workers to 26, so he's still behind on worker count now. Crimson Cans have thrown up the second town centre, so Pharos back to square one. At the disadvantage on the water. No advantage on the land with his economy. Grove coming out, so there'll be some Druids in the mix for the Celt player too. So this is where it becomes really hard for any Civ to take fights into them in Age 2 when they get a nice mixed composition with the Druids in the mix. And then they can always break away their really quick infantry, one speed quicker than all the other infantry except for counter infantry. So Druid on the way as soon as Crimson gets the gold, I think. There you go, but Pharos in the meanwhile adding more houses, continuing to produce more bowmen. He's sort of put a lid on his Sparrow for the time being. He just wants to get a lot of bowmen. Needs just enough Sparrow to really... Oh, this could really pose a bit of a problem for him because Crimson's actually added in a swan ship, sorry. And it got a nice connect there on a couple of bowmen, getting a couple of kills. And this is going to prove a bit of a danger because this is basically going to act as like an area damage bowman for Crimson. Pharos really can't take fights under that swan ship. He's going to need to play around Asabara like he did last game. But this time he's at the short end of the stick. He hasn't really gotten any value early game to justify being behind on the water, so it's going to be an uphill battle if he wants to push out lots of Asabara. Instead, he's got a big food bank and not a lot of gold, so big mass of Sparabara instead of Asabara is probably the way to go. But it's tough because he's going to need to surround this one ship and take it down quickly and try and deal with this front line of infantry, deal with the Druids, deal with the slingers. It's a big ask for him at the moment. He's on the back foot in terms of population, in terms of score, economy, army size. Although he's only down by 7 workers, so he's doing a good job there, keeping up his production behind all this. But this fight could be the death knell for him because he's just lost a lot of his front line really. And while the back line's on the run, it's not killing anything of Crimson's front line. Well, that's a good reverse volley there. A couple of slinger kills on the way out, a little bit of damage. But damage is inconsequential at this point because now the Celt has healing, so no longer does the Persian have that advantage over him anymore either. These idle villages are going to hurt Pharos a little bit, but it looks like they're moving up onto a hunt, so that's going to be a high value gain for him, but these guys are going to get seen actually. I hope Pharos realizes this because this could be it right here. If this gets caught, he's going to be so far behind, there's no coming back. Age 3 coming out for Pharos, but again, he's making a big commitment economically when he's already so far behind. That's 900 resources, more or less down the drain until he actually commits even more to get his Age 3 benefits out on the field, like upgrades, units, new production facilities. So it's a big commitment, and if Crimson pushes right as this finishes, Pharos is in a really, really bad spot. Pharos is responding to this watch post, but he's also going to come down and try and catch the army. Failing that, he might even be able to take out this hunt. But yeah, Pharos not seeing the army where it's going, but I think he saw it actually move out. He might have been parked just next to it. Although this is a good catch by Crimson, and Pharos is going to find it really hard to take this fight because he's just missed micro there, didn't get off a volley. And it looks as though Crimson's going to be able to overwhelm him. His front line's pretty much down. Slinger's chasing down Pharos's bowman ball, but it's all fallen to pieces. And there's a lot of druids here in the mix, unopposed. GG is called. That's game number 3, guys. Thank you for watching once again, and congratulations to our winner, Crimson Cantab, who's won 2 series and lost 1 this weekend. So thank you for playing 3, and Pharos, thank you for stepping up with all your sign-ups recently too. But yeah, cheers guys. I'll see you around. We'll have some games next week.